Welcome to 50 Plus in Montgomery County, a monthly program that is a voice for many, produced by the Commission on Aging, of which I am a community member. This show is insightful for people of all ages, and each episode takes a fresh look at important issues by spotlighting older adults in the community, representative services and programs, and activities of interest to older adults. My name is Katie Smith, and on this month's show, we're going to talk about consumer protections. Joining me to have that discussion is Michelle Escobar. Michelle is an investigator with the Office of Consumer Protections. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course, I'm excited to chat. Well,
Me
Michelle,
too.
let's jump right in.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Office of Consumer Protection.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, first, I'm Michelle Escobar. As you mentioned, I just wanted to introduce myself. I've been with the office since February 2015, so almost 10 years now. I'm the investigator that specializes in home improvement law. I
Mm.
have handled almost 1,000 cases for Montgomery County consumers. And previously, I worked with the Maryland Home Improvement Commission for many years. Um, our office, the Office of Consumer Protection, our acronym is OCP, we've been in existence since 1971, so 53 years now. And we are dedicated to enforcing consumer protection laws designed to prevent unfair and deceptive trade practices in the marketplace. Our office offers mediation for some complaints. We investigate individual consumer complaints, and we are a law enforcement agency. So when appropriate, we issue citations and we can also file criminal charges. We license and register businesses like new home builders, motor vehicle repair shops, towing companies, small appliance repair businesses. And also, we focus on educating the public on their consumer rights. We offer speakers at Montgomery County community events, and we recently have launched a podcast.
Mm. Well, I have some questions that I love to ask you about the podcast a little bit later, but
Yeah.
let's start here. And what types of investigations does, I'll use your acronym OCP, take on?
Yeah, so currently we have 8 investigators that investigate a wide range of consumer complaints. We have investigators that will specialize in investigating complaints against retail stores, restaurants, auto repair shops and sales, storage facilities, towing complaints, home improvements, new home builds. Really, if you aren't sure if you have a consumer complaint, you are able to reach out to the office and we'd be happy to discuss your possible complaint.
Well, Michelle, are there common types of scams that people should be aware of? I know you mentioned, home improvement builders,
Yeah.
rather than retail, but are there like different types of scams?
So those door-to-door scams, those door-to-door sales,
Mm.
they're they are very common and the most common. One thing that you want to make sure as a Montgomery County resident, if someone comes and knocks on your door, the Department of Permitting issues door-to-door sales licenses that should be you should be able to see should be hanging from their pocket or what but should be visible, and you they should have that. So they can't come knocking on your door without that. Now,
Mm.
most of the time they're selling home improvements. That's what I
Mm.
find. And so not only should they have that door-to-door sales from Montgomery County, but they should be licensed salesmen for the company that they're selling the home improvement for. So they also must be licensed by the Maryland Home Improvement Commission. They legally cannot take more of a third down on a project. They must have their MHIC license, which is Maryland Home Improvement Commission. They must have their license number on their contracts, on their invoices, on their vehicles and their cards. Their contracts, they have contractual obligations that must include the MHIC contact information, the guarantee fund information. The state has a fund for poor workmanship or abandoned work that could be covered. Contracts must be in the language, must be written in the language that the contract was negotiated in. So that's something
Mm,
about door to doors. Those that never gets old. But we have these high tech scammers as well.
mm,
So we have some the emails that come to you. It's phishing, what they call phishing. Uh, look for misspelled words within the body or even in the email. I was telling you when we had a little chat a couple of days ago, I had received an email from PayPal that really looked legitimate. And so we still have to be very wary of that because these are things that will happen and it looks legitimate. So the best thing to do is to reach out to the organization that's texting you or that's emailing you and make sure that that's a legitimate email. My email was saying that I had made changes to my PayPal account, which I had not. So I reached out and just made sure, and they had not made any changes. Also, smishing, which is text
mm.
messages that come to you. A lot of people are getting text messages that the United States Post Office cannot deliver a package to you because there's something wrong with the zip code or something, and they want you to click and enter information. Don't click, don't enter in information, and especially if you're not is expecting a package, and if you are, um, it's maybe think about did you provide your phone number to the United States Post Office? Usually you don't, but make sure. Always go back. Make sure. Don't just click on any link that comes to you.
Okay, so we have door to door phishing, which is through email, and then smishing. That's a new lingo for me,
That's
which is
right.
the text messages, and we need to be aware of, all three. If
Yes.
somebody falls victim, how can they file a complaint?
So you can file a complaint online with our office. If you sometimes folks don't have aren't very savvy with online or don't feel comfortable filing something online or don't even have an email sometimes. So we can still mail you a complaint form to your address, to your home address. And you can file the complaint in your language. If it's Spanish, for example, we will translate it here and we will take that investigate that complaint. A language barrier should not deter anyone from filing a complaint. Not all transactions go smoothly. So
Mm,
you want to make sure when you do make a transaction, keep a copy of your contract, keep a copy of your receipts, your invoices, proof of payments, and photos, because the more information you give us when you file your complaint, the
mm,
better we can move forward with that investigation and progress.
okay. Now, Michelle, you mentioned information to look for. Again, it's either door to door, look for their verifiable information, that their license. If it's in a phishing, the email, make sure like the configuration is right or the smishing, the text message. That looks like it's from a reliable source. Are there any other things, we can look for or, that will help us in how we can avoid scams?
Yeah, so you want to be very aware and not give in to high pressure tactics.
Mm,
These scammers are professionals. They're experts in really offering saying what you want to hear. Sometimes it might be a good price. Sometimes they're very nice and sweet talkers, and people fall for it. Or sometimes they pressure you and you get intimidated, and you don't like confrontation. So those high pressure tactics, or just if you're not feeling good about something, sometimes it's really good to just go with your gut. So those are things that you should look for. Of course, the emails, the misspellings, what we talked about, and then also if they're asking you to provide personal information, that is
mm,
something that you have to be very careful about. And if they're asking you to send money,
mm,
um, that that's something that you don't want to send money. You don't want to be out of it, and you be surprised of how easy sometimes people will send the money and they think that they're doing the right thing, or that they're obligated to do it, and it's a scam. So
Hmm.
just really just I think go with your gut sometimes. You
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
really, because they'll say things, listen very carefully to what they're saying. And if you're not sure, just stop, wait,
Mm,
and contact our office, talk to your family, just wait. There's no
okay.
reason for you to move forward and get into something that later you'll regret.
Okay. Michelle, I like to dig just a little bit deeper on that because a lot of times, many of us, we take phone calls from, a well-established organization or what we perceive to be, but, you know, I guess why is it important to verify information before sharing like personal or financial details? If I have someone calling me, they say they're calling from my bank, I mean, this might really sound legitimate and they may have checked all these other boxes for me, but, why is that important to really verify that information?
Because you don't know who's getting that information.
Hmm.
It can fall into the wrong hands, and then there's identity theft, and
Hmm.
you can then later fall into making purchases that's on your credit cards, or things fall on you when you have nothing to do with it and someone has gotten a hold of your information.
All right, let's talk about marketplace shopping because of a lot of us
Yeah.
are online. I know just a lot happens there. Can you just share best tips for how we navigate that space?
Yeah, so marketplace, you want to assume that you are not dealing with an honest person unless you really know this marketplace, you've dealt with them before, but you don't want to assume that this person is honest. You want to beware from the very beginning. Um, Take a look at if it's a good price. Sometimes if it's too good, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. But look at the history on these online sellers. Check where the seller is located, and never go offline with them and provide them information. That you want to be wary of that. And if you have to meet with them, let's say you you're trusting that this transaction is going to go smoothly and you're going to meet with them in person. Um, Meet with them in person at a police station,
Mm,
at a government facility that has cameras. Uh, don't pay via Cash App or Zelle,
mm,
those payment apps. Don't pay through those apps. Deal with cash and a receipt only
mm.
when you're dealing with marketplace.
Well, how do we know, Michelle, if or how can we ensure that like a website is even legitimate?
So things that you can look for, the URL, the web address. Uh, Fraudsters will tweak the spelling of a familiar website, so make sure that you're on the actual website. Um, Check for contact information and double check for it. Make sure that these websites are offer contact information, their phone numbers, their addresses. Legitimate businesses will offer multiple ways to contact them, not just via chat, for example. I mean, some businesses do that, but but legitimate businesses will offer the chat and a phone number and other ways to contact them. If you're making a payment online, make sure that the website is the HTTPS secure website. The S is for secure. A lot of illegitimate websites do not use the S at the end and they just keep it as the HTTP. Also check the online presence of a website or a business. Check their reviews. The more information you have, the better.
In the age of social media, do we also could we also cross-check with something like that? So they have their website, but then maybe we know they have pages on other applications, or is that a no-go?
Um, you want to go to the source. You want to
Hmm.
go to the source.
Okay. Now, at the top of our conversation, Michelle, you mentioned that you have a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so we launched a podcast earlier this year during the summer, and it's called Consumer Connection. We created the podcast to educate and keep consumers informed on the latest consumer protection news and issues, emerging issues. Consumer Connection provides information on a variety of consumer protection topics. Our goal is to guide Montgomery County residents in navigating this ever-changing consumer landscape, right? And we talk about how to avoid scams, your
Mhm.
consumer rights, how to make informed purchasing decisions. And in the future, we've connected with experts that provide advice and practical tips for for consumers.
Yeah. What other topics have you covered and maybe like who have been your guests so far?
Yeah. So our first guest was Eric Friedman, who is our executive director. He has been with the Office of Consumer Protection for 43 years. He started out as an investigator and has become a leader in the consumer protection world. He is an attorney and has spearheaded consumer protection movements and has been instrumental in combating scams against minority communities, senior citizens, and vulnerable consumers. So our first episode, Eric and I, we discussed the history of our office and just the evolution of the consumer world and marketplace. We focused the first two episodes really focused on the office and also on home improvement and new home builds. But our second episode, we had Sean Carew, who is the manager for the Business Education and Regulation Unit, and that acronym is BEAR. And so we BEAR monitors compliance issues and primarily educates the businesses that we license so they don't find themselves later in violation of the law. Patty Vitale was on together with Sean, and she is our investigations administrator. And like I said, we went into depth with both home improvement and new home builds, the requirements for both, and tips how to hire a contractor and and the benefits of hiring a licensed contractor. And the most recent is was our holiday episode, where we had a
Hmm.
really great discussion with Tracy Resvani, who is the administrator at the Howard County Consumer Protection Office. And together we discussed strategies for smart shopping, avoiding scams that target holiday shoppers. But truly, those tips go beyond holiday shopping.
Hmm. I'm glad
Yeah.
you mentioned that, Michelle, because we just wrapped up the holiday season, and obviously you've already shared a lot of tips that we can use to avoid scams. But are there like any emerging issues in consumer protection?
So emerging issues. One thing I would like to share about the shopping is gift cards, and I
Mm,
will get to the emerging issues. But gift cards, you just want to be careful when you're buying gift cards. You have these criminals that will open up the packaging and read all the codes, and
mm,
they will. When someone purchases those gift cards, they get a notification immediately that money has been placed on the gift cards. And
mm,
before the consumer can even use the gift cards, the money has been siphoned off the gift cards. And as you shop, you want to make sure in the return policy and the refund policy in Maryland, you have to disclose it, but it only needs to be disclosed on the receipt. So if you don't see posted signs and you're not too sure, you want to ask about that return policy, because sometimes maybe a store will only give you a store credit. So you want to be able to take that under consideration. And
mhm.
then one more is the Porch Pirates.
Hmm. Yes.
They buy notification information off the black market and receive the notification at the same time that you do that your package has arrived, and they immediately steal your package off your porch. So, some ways to avoid porch pirates: use a locker to get your package deliver it to the retailer. A lot of times, for example, I'll order off of Macy's and just have the package delivered to Macy's and pick it up there. Have the package delivered to your neighbor or to work. Um, but as emerging issues, the goal of a scammer has not changed. They want to take your money. They want to rob you from your money. The and it What's has happened is it's just become high tech and it's a little more difficult to navigate it and identify it. So be careful where you are on your social media. What you do, where you click on your social media, that's how scammers find you, off third-party websites. WhatsApp, I actually keep a WhatsApp account open
Mhm.
for my family that lives in Costa Rica. And I recently, my mother-in-law recently, she's from El Salvador, had an experience. She uses WhatsApp to communicate with family too. And her nephew, in quotation, supposed nephew, called her and said that he was surprising his mom his mom with a trip to El Salvador, and that he didn't have any money and he had luggage that needed to be sent, and he didn't have money to pay for the luggage and needed money immediately. And when she heard him, it was his voice. So it's a
Mm.
voice cloning. So she went and got the money and went to Western Union, and Western Union person said, ask him. She must have experienced this before. She said, ask him for the full name of your sister, his mom, and he couldn't give it to her. So
Mm.
they were able to stop that transaction before it got bad, right? And so
Yeah.
also the utility scams, that's still something that is going on. You want to be careful. They'll This high pressure, we're going to cut your electric out, or your utilities off if you don't pay $350 right now. I had a call where a person paid it right away because they were afraid that their mother was going to be left without electricity and mom was on oxygen.
Mm.
So these are things, be careful what information you're giving out, where your social media, because it's never ever evolving, always something.
Yeah. It's really great that the person on the other end that was, going to help him wire that money or her wire that money, stopped and was, noticed that this doesn't even seem like it's right or accurate. So that's
Yeah.
great partnership to have there. Are
Yes, it
there
takes
any
a
other
village.
Yes, it does. Michelle, are there any other resources available? I know that you mentioned on your podcast, you interviewed someone from Howard County. So this tells me perhaps you work with the different agencies across the region, but are there any other resources available to consumers and just the regular average everyday person?
Yeah, so always Montgomery County, you residents have the benefits of this office. Howard County has a benefit of their Office of Consumer Protection, but those are the only two counties that have their own Office
Mm.
of Consumer Protection. So as a Marylander, um, you can reach out to and file a complaint with the Attorney General's office.
Mm.
They have Office of Consumer Affairs, and of course there are the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. They go after scammers, but in a wider aspect. So it's always a good idea to start. I think if you're a Montgomery County or resident, start with our
Mhm.
office, and then
Okay.
we will help guide you from there.
Okay. I have about 1 minute left, but I
Okay.
want to squeeze in two more questions really quick.
All right.
How can people educate themselves and others about scams? Is it the kitchen table talk, the hair salon, beauty supply, or barber shop, or just I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever the family gathering is, how do you educate yourselves about that?
So the way I end the podcast is stay informed, stay protected, and stay connected.
Mm.
So one thing about the world we live in today is that there is so much information out there. So we stay informed with these emerging scams. And as we said, it really does take a village. Our office appreciates information on transactions that seem fishy. Maybe you haven't fallen victim to it, but you know something isn't right. Share that information. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with your neighbors, and share it with the appropriate organizations so it may be investigated.
Okay, so we're staying informed, protected, and connected.
That's right.
All right. And how can we stay in contact with you, Michelle?
Please, the best way to stay in contact or to contact the Office of Consumer Protection is 311
Mhm.
240 or our website is www.montgomerycountymd.gov/OCP.
Michelle, thanks so much for this very informative and discussion that we've had. I appreciate your time.
Yes, you are very welcome. Remember, scammers are very patient now and they do their homework. They are not successful every time, but they are willing to wait for that one person that they can catch on an off day. So,
Well, thank you. Well, that concludes our program for today. As you can see, the voices of those 50 plus matter every day and in every way. To learn more about services for seniors in Montgomery County, please visit the Montgomery County Seniors website by visiting montgomerycountymd.gov/senior or call the Senior Resource Line at 240-777-3000. And as always, thank you for watching 50 Plus in Montgomery County. Stay informed, protected, and connected.